East Asia. Do you know that? The continent you're stepping on right now is the Asian continent. It's East Asia. Today, let's learn about East Asia.
First, East Asian countries include China, Japan, South Korea, North Korea, Taiwan, and Mongolia. The total population of East Asia is about 1.655 billion. The global population is about 20% of the total 8.24 billion people. 2 out of every 10 people in the world are East Asians. It is the largest population on the world continent. Out of 1.655 billion people, 1.42 billion are Chinese. This is about 80% of the population. Why is East Asia so populated? If you look at the history of East Asia, you think agricultural society is important. The more offspring you have, the more help you farm together and the more workers you have. It's easy to make money. Because of this, most Asian cities where farming was important are adjacent to the sea. You can see from the Eastern tendency, the East has a collectivist social orientation, and the West has an individualistic orientation, unlike the West. In addition, East Asians tend to trust each other well and act collectively because they are showing high-rise apartment housing types. Most East Asian countries have a small land area and a large population. When building, I prefer high-rise buildings for space efficiency. Most of the world-famous skyscrapers are in the Asian continent. But there's also a downside. The disadvantage is that the population is concentrated in the city, so the population is concentrated in the city. If the city has a large population, it can be economically efficient, but the gap between the rich and the poor is widening and the urban infrastructure is rapidly developed, leading to a rapid low birth rate and aging population. Let's take a look at the economic power of East Asia. Let's look at GDP first. GDP means GDP, which means it is produced within the territory of a country for a period of time. For example, it includes foreigners doing and spending productive work on their own in Korea. This includes when T-Era receives a participation fee from a tikitalka meeting and when Cash makes money working as a teacher at a Korean school. The world's total GDP is $101 trillion, of which East Asia's total GDP is $26 trillion. East Asia has about 25% of the world's economic power. But the population is so large that per capita GDP is lower than in Western countries. This time, let's learn about the history of East Asia. China has developed civilization since ancient times. It had the best civilization in the world, but it was invaded by Britain and other Western countries. China is a combination of countries. The reason why the population is so large now is because of the fact that the countries of different ethnicities are united. The dictatorship was advantageous to rule large populations. Dictatorship, socialism has developed, and China is shouting out one. And that's why all the people's capital goes to the state. One ruler rules the country, so it's easy to build a city and control its citizens. This makes China the world's greatest power, and it's the only country that can keep the US in check. But as time goes by, citizens enter the global era by interacting with people all over the world, and that's why citizens are increasingly criticizing and dissatisfied with dictatorship and socialism. Typical examples are the Tiananmen incident in China and the Umbrella movement in Hong Kong. Let's go to Korea this time. Korea was originally a country, but when World War broke out, the US controlled South Korea, and China and Russia controlled North Korea. It was easy for the US to keep China and Russia in check. Because the Korean peninsula was close to the border, they could not give up the Korean peninsula, and if China took Korea, China would invade Japan and Taiwan. In 1950, at 4 a.m., when North Korea invaded South Korean territory, South Koreans were forced to be pushed back because they were all sleeping and resting. We were pushed back and ended up in Daegu, where the US and South Korea sought help from democracies around the world. The last thing we needed to do was fight to die in Daegu. The US tried to give up because of the large number of injuries, but finally, General MacArthur set up an operation to land the enemy's sleeping Incheon early in the morning, sneaking onto a ship, and hitting the enemy in the waist. That was Incheon. The Korean army opposed this, but they eventually tried for their country. However, since the enemy was only in Jeolla, Gyeongsang, and Seoul, I did not expect to come to Incheon, so the result was very successful. In the end, North Korea was on the verge of surrender, but China secured a large population and came back down to South Korea, and now the state is complete. Japan once invaded Korea, China, and other Asian countries. During this time, countless people suffered under colonial rule. Even today, some leaders visit Yasukuni Shrine, a place that honors military commanders responsible for these invasions. There were also tragic crimes, including the sexual violence committed against young women, known as comfort women. Now, let me tell you about traditional East Asian clothes, food, and traditional buildings. In China, kipao, kimono in Japan, and hanbok in Korea are traditional clothes. The representative foods are maltong and hot pot in China, sushi in Japan. There are kimbap and bibimbap in Korea. China, Japan, and Korea each have different traditional buildings. Take a look. Lastly, thank you for watching my video. If you sponsor the last section of the test paper, it will be very helpful in video production and very helpful in producing tikitalka activities.